today's tool is the STAR framework, right? And this is not the STAR framework that you use for interviews and everything. We'll talk about that maybe sometime in the future, okay? But this is a STAR framework that you use to understand the organizations. Now, so this tool is among several other tools that enables new leaders and line managers to make successful transitions into any organization or role. As leaders and as managers, we will make transitions. Research has shown that in every organization, leaders make about 2 to 3 transitions within 5 years or so. So you expect to grow, you expect to change organizations, you expect to change functions and everything. These are transitions. There are tools out there that enables such transitions to happen seamlessly. All right. The tool was first clearly articulated by Micheal Watkins in his book, The First 90 Days. So this tool is about making successful transitions as a line manager. So what is transition and why is it important for us to focus on them? Okay. And like of course, if you saw some of our communication before this session, we have talked about why do leaders and line managers fail or derail or struggle in their first 90 to 1 year in office. All right. And why, as we talk about this tool today, we are going to attempt to answer that question. And I'm sure it's going to be a very, very interesting learning experience for us. All right. Okay, so next question is, why is this tool very important? Okay, like I said, transitions into new roles are the most challenging times in the professional lives of leaders. Okay, and why is that? It is said that you don't have a second chance to make a first impression, right? But sometimes in leadership and in management, you actually don't even have a first chance to make a first impression, because sometimes you can begin to have issues even before you have a chance to prove yourself. So it is very, very, very key that we learn about transitions. And typically, transitions even begin before you enter into a new organization or before you go and acquire a new role. So what are transitions? How do they start? Why are they important? Why do they impact leaders so much? And why is it important that leaders should learn how to manage them? That is what we want to focus on today because of the tool that we are looking at. Now, the tool itself is just one of several other tools within the Leadership Transition Acceleration Framework, okay, that was proposed by Micheal Watkins. But at Haynes and Atkinson, we've expanded this tool and we built it into a coaching program that also helps leaders. So as we speak, we have a couple of leaders we are conducting we are managing their leadership transition, and we also have organizations on our portfolio whose leadership transitions we are also managing. We have a book coming up, the Good to Great Manager, and part of it is a section or a part where we spent a lot of time talking about transitions to some of the issues that are peculiar in our environment and how you as a leader can overcome them, right? So the reason why it's important that we look at this today is because you need to scale the first 90 days, the first 100 days, of assuming a new position. And why is that important? The credibility and the goodwill we build that in that period will see you through your leadership tenure or your leadership work, in that organization or in that new role. But if you fail and build and people distrust you or people lose confidence in you in those first few days, to 1 year of work, you will build for yourself a reputation that will only continue to reinforce itself, for the rest of the time you spend in the organization. And when people can't take it anymore, when confidence begins to just go downhill, and of course contribution follow suit, then you find that people tend to want to leave, and just salvage the rest of their reputation and everything. So it is a very, very important topic. So if you are changing roles, if you just made a move, if you are planning to make a move, if you are planning to go to a new organization, whatever the nature of your transition, this is a must-have. This tool is a must-have as a manager. Okay? So this tool helps you to understand what type of transitions you're experiencing, which you are finding the most challenging and why, and what are some of the traps you might encounter in the course of your transition and how you can avoid them, and what you can do to create virtuous circles and build momentum in your new role. All right, and what are the key elements and milestones your first 90 days plan. Now, like I said earlier, we do have a training program for this, and we have a coaching program for this, and these are the top key objectives that we usually want to achieve. Now, in this webinar, we are trying to just look at just some of the key points, So if there's anyone who needs this type of information at this time, this will go a long way to support. Now, how did I get to learn about this? Because yes, I'm a leader too. I've been a leader and I'm still leading. And I've had my own career journey and my own leadership transitions, over time. So I did ask us during the first webinar on Line Managers Toolkit to draw up our leadership journey map. All right. And this is mine. Okay. So you can see that I have transited from being a frontline to team lead, from team lead to supervisor to manager to associate partner in the consulting firm. I've in the course of my stint as a consultant, acted as HR directors in various organizations, or 2 organizations precisely. And I'm here and I still lead and manage the firm, right? So, who is better positioned to tell you about something than somebody who has experienced it themselves? So I've had my successes, I've had my transition failures, I've had my transition traps, I've had my good moments, and I've had my excellent moments, and I've had my failed moments. And it is out of these 2 decades of experience that I am sharing with you the tool that we're talking about today. And some of you probably have read that book or probably stumbled into this knowledge and everything. Good. Hang on, maybe you can also share some of your experiences or some of your insights in the course of this. But if you have never heard of it before, then welcome on board. This is an opportunity for you to hear of it, because if you know these things, you will avoid some of the mistakes I made, all right, and some people are making, all right, and then you have a more smooth sail. Maybe your own leadership, your career map will be a smoother and a better one than mine. Okay, so like you can see, in the course of my journey, all right. So let me tell you one of my own stories, all right, one of my transition disaster stories. Okay, like you can see, I have had wonderful times. All right, I had spent one of my longest leadership careers in a multinational firm. And in that firm, you can see, I won a lot of leadership awards. That's me standing there. I'm going to say this very proudly, okay? I'm not bragging, but I'm proud of it. All right, that's me standing by the president of South Africa and the group chairman of MTN at the time, and receiving an award for being an active mentor and leader of my team. And this was an award that came through several thousand of nominees, and everything. And it took me through the regional to the global level and everything. So I have had my wonderful successes, and everything. And one of the key things about one of my lessons, all right, they said you live life forward, but you learn it backwards. One of my key lessons was that my earlier transitions from level 1 all the way to level 4, you can see, right? That is to middle management, was extremely smooth. Okay. Because I was naturally a very technically astute individual. All right. I was growing my leadership and my people side and my business acumen steadily. But because of my technical prowess, I was able to grow speedily. And that's to tell you that typically you are rewarded with promotions at the early stages of your career. And of course, I'm sure most of you know that, for your technical contribution, your individual contribution. All right. And so I grew very well. But then when I hit middle management, you can see at level 4, there was a long delay. That was the longest delay I've had in my career, waiting to move to the next level. Now, in fact, if you number 3 at step 3, I actually made some transitions there. So my career experience and my leadership experience at that level as a supervisor versus team lead, I did so many things. So it was even exciting. I changed functional roles. I changed specialization. I moved from being a supervisor to team lead, from team lead to being a supervisor, from being a supervisor to being a business analyst. So there were a lot of exciting career opportunities there. So it wasn't boring. But number 4, step 4, was relatively longer. All right. And at that point, the other factors above the organizations began to play in and became very, very important factors, all right, necessary for growth, all right? And there was a lot of learning that needed to be done, all right? So I'm trying to use it to tell you that at the start of your career, at lower levels of the organizations, yes, your growth and acceleration might be, relatively easy. But as you move into the senior, especially from middle management upward, what brought you so far might not take you forward. So it might be a good time to begin to unlearn something, relearn. Like they say, learn, unlearn and relearn, as well. So you begin to relearn some things, all right, unlearn some things, and relearn new things, and we pick up new things, as it were, and those are the things that will take you upward. And part of those things we'll be looking at as we move forward. All right. But when I moved also into upper management and I began to lead at the director and business owner level, again, I experienced some transition issues, which maybe we'll talk about. So let's just move faster, and I'll share my story, as time goes on. So typically, it is expected that when you make a transition, what happens? So what's the ideal transition journey? You build credibility, then you build respect, and then people trust you, and then everybody welcomes you into the family. You are now included. You're not part of the whole. The team. And everybody loves you, and then you wield influence to get to do things for you within your team, outside the team, outside the organization, and then you make huge impact, right? That is what is supposed to happen. But what really happens is not. It doesn't always go this way. Okay, and what typically happens is what is illustrated here. Again, I got this from some of Watkins' presentations. Now, there are 2 things that typically happens. They call it the vicious circle and the virtuous circle. All right, and of course, we are here to talk about how to avoid the vicious circle. The vicious circle is where you did not learn enough and you did not build key relationships. Now, let me quickly say up front that the 2 key and the most important things that enables successful and smooth transitions are usually around learning and building relationships. All right, so let's just have that at the back of our mind, right, before we go to the other things. Now, when you don't do those 2 very well, then you begin to make bad decisions and you lose your credibility, and then you don't have anybody to run to, you have no support or anybody as your sponsor, to speak for you or to guide you or to coach you. And then, after a while, your team and the organization begin to resist you, and before you know it, your career just going downhill. In certain cases, you can actually crash your career. So this is what to avoid. But when things go right, you build effective relationships, you focus on the right learning, you find out that you make good decisions, and your strategy and activities are informed and aligned to the company goals, vision and strategy. You build supportive alliances, you build credibility, and then you make your early impacts, your early wins, and it just takes off from there. So one of the things we want to achieve when we move into a new organization, when we move into a new role, is what we have in the vicious circle, all right, or the virtuous circle. Sorry, right. So this is what we want to achieve, and the essence of the tool we're going to be learning today is one of those tools that enables us to achieve the virtuous circle. All right, are you following? All right. If you are following, just let me have a yes, 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 yes. Are we together? Just say yes.
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 Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I just want to be sure I'm not alone. I'm with the team. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Melia. Thank you, Kenneth. Yes. All right. So, what are the common traps? What are the common traps what you must not do when you are coming into a new role as a leader? And what are the common traps? What are the things that get in the way? What must you not do? And what are the things that get in the way? Okay, we're going to look at them in quick succession. Maybe we'll just look at a few of them. There's so many others, but we'll look at a few of them this morning. Number one, first of all, one of the major traps is the type and number of transitions you experience. So typically, we say that the number of transitions you are experiencing actually determines the level of risk of failure that you might fall into. All right. And so what are the type of transitions? Number one, you have moving into a new company. All right. So it's possible that you are moving from your company, all right, to another firm. If that is happening, then you have one risk of failure there. Number two, promotion to a higher level. So when you are changing from one level to another level in the organization, say you are moving from a supervisor to a manager, or from a manager to a senior manager, or from a senior manager to a general manager, or from a general manager to an MD or a director, the chances and the risk of failure, the minds are there, all right, are very high. So you need to do some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Number three, source of risk is leading former peers. How many of you have moved into a new role? And I'm sorry, of course you are working with, and I think I shared one of my stories during the last edition where I was interviewed at the team lead level, where I was interviewed with a couple of my colleagues for the team lead position, and eventually I got it, and I had to be one to lead them. Now, if you agree with me that a lot of times it comes with its own issues, especially people who believe they know better than you, people who believe you don't deserve it, people who believe that you got the job because you know the boss, people who, and people who wonder who are you to be the one to direct them and to tell them what to do and everything. So you have all those competition and everything. That's a major risk factor, and that can cause you to fail, struggle, or derail. The next is moving geographically. So sometimes you have to move from one country to another, one state to another, all right? That can pose its own transition risk too. So when you have a risk, you have a transition coming up and it involves geographical movement, you need to take it, seriously. Next, another factor is moving to new functions or specialty. So, and I told you about some of the transitions I made that were, from team lead to business analyst. All right. So these are just functional movements. It's not every time that you have a transition that is an upward or vertical progression. Sometimes it's just a horizontal move, right? And those are very good career transitions too. But you have to be wary of the risks that are inherent in those transitions too. Okay. Then moving from function to a cross-functional role. So you probably are leading one space. So you are like the general manager marketing. And then you move to another role where you are now the director of marketing. And then you now have both maybe marketing and customer service and customer retention, and other roles added to you. So you are a cross-functional leader, all right? And they say in certain organizations, you probably move from being a leader of a team to a leader of leaders or a manager of managers. So you have managers from different functions reporting to you, all right? Or maybe you move to a GM role, general manager's role, where you are managing an entire, function. So those can pose its own risk, all right? And, I'm sure you know why. There are people who are already experts, in those space and everything, and they will have to rely on you to give them direction. So, there's learning quickly and leading in such a way that your leaders can guide you and can provide advice, in a way that is non-threatening either to you or to them, and everything, and to achieve results with all that number. There's a huge level of growth, or there's a huge development that is required to achieve those things. And that's why, like they say, it's dangerous to try to skip levels, when you are growing within the organization, because you might lose some key lessons, and you will then struggle when you move so fast, right? Speed kills. When it comes to organizational growth or leadership growth, speed kills. I remember having a session with one of my leaders in the past, and she told me, "Look, Idoko, if you are in a hurry, you will make mistakes." And it stuck with me. And as I grew more and learned more, I realized that those words were they are words in marble. They are so powerful. When it comes to leadership growth, speed kills. So you better grow accordingly and learn as you go. But if you cut corners and leverage politics and other things, and you just accelerate unnecessarily, of course, what happens to cars that are overspeeding. Now, all right. So another transition type is taking a newly created role. So you are probably the first person. I've started some departments in the past. I've been asked to come and start certain departments in the past, and that comes with its own challenges and with, of course, its own risk. And then finally dealing with an unfamiliar type of business situation. So you're brought into a completely different business situation. So maybe you were part of a group, and you were probably the MD for the banking arm of the business, and then you are moved to the telecoms business as the vice president. It's, or let's assume you're not even changing industry, as it were. Maybe your business is on course, but suddenly the environment changed. New legislation, new technology, there is a pesticide disruption, all right? And then you now have a new situation in your hand. Now you have not, up until now, you have not been trained for that situation. So you have to learn and accelerate learning, get all the support you need, build alliances and everything, and quickly overcome the situation so that the business can be on course. If you fail, especially if you are at the top of the organization, then, it becomes a disaster, and that can mark the end of your career. So these various transition types, and there are so many others, but I will stop here. So these various transition types are the courses, they are the mines, they are the traps that lead to success or failures in transitions. And like I said earlier, the more types of transitions you are experiencing in one particular move, the higher the risk. And so sometimes it might even help for you to assess the transition. We'll look at all the things you need to do later, but you need to assess the transition you're going to, and be sure you have what it takes to manage all the risks that comes with it. And it's not every promotion that really is a promotion. And if you can sit down and do an objective evaluation, you can actually refuse some moves, all right? So that you don't go in there and you crash and your career crashes, because your reputation is very important, okay? So these are one of the major source of transition struggles, all right? And it is the nature of the transition that you are going through. Any questions? Can I move to the next slide? All right, so if you have a question, just post it on the chat group as we continue. All right, the next factor, okay, that can lead to that can serve as a trap to okay, is the things you must not do. Okay, so one of the common mistakes, let me call this the common mistakes, that this has not to do with the organization, and it now has to do with you, the person that is making the transition. Okay, one of the common mistakes people make is that you come into organization, number one, sticking with what you know. So you'll be hired from one organization as head of engineering, all right, and then you come into another firm, all right, say an oil firm, and then you're just telling them, when I was when I was in company A, this is how we used to do it. When I was in company A, this is how, you come with that whole nostalgic thing, chances are that you will derail. Chances are that you will fail. Because apart from the fact that you may just meet with unfamiliar systems and processes, but there are also cultural and climatic contextual factors that you need to look at. And sometimes it might just be that the people don't like you for that. You might just put people off culturally, or socially, and then people will try to even sabotage your effort. So you have to try to avoid that. Honestly, growing up in my careers, my own career, I had situations, and I've heard colleagues say they went to certain firms, so you have a colleague that probably moved from an MTN and went to an IBM. And they say, well, at MTN, this is how you used to do it. At MTN, this is how you used to do it. And I was like, okay, so, welcome, Mr. MTN, and everything. And people fall into those traps, but we put people off and we create a lot of problems for ourselves. That can be a source of derailment. You have to be extremely careful. Now, coming in with the answers. Another trap is people or mistake leaders make when they transit is coming with the impression that you have all the answers. And that nothing, I don't know if it's not even here, right? But coming with the impression that you have all the answers, and that the other thing is acting as if there's nothing good where you have come to. When you begin to behave like that, then you begin to have issues and you begin to create resistance for yourself. Next is falling prey to the action imperative. All right, so you come into the system and you just want to start getting things done. You want to move fast. You want to, sometimes you just probably need to slow down, depending on, the context and the situation and the business situation you are going to look at. Business situations, which is the purpose of the tool we're going to look at anyway. Sometimes it can become a problem when you come in and you just want to, hit the ground running, and because of that, you are in a hurry. I hired someone recently, and the person tried to, make some contributions. And one day I had a one-on-one with him, and I was like, you know what? The first thing you need to do is relax. Right? Relax. Don't worry. Don't be in a hurry. I see you're trying to work to please, but just relax. Okay? Because in trying to move so fast or so quickly, you then tend to make mistakes. And it also stems from the fact that you think you already have all the answers. Okay, so don't fall prey to that. Setting unrealistic expectations, and sometimes again, as part of the effort to try to please or try to impress, you may also begin to overload your bucket. And very soon you set expectations for yourself or for your team that you cannot carry, right? You probably have not evaluated the capacity of the team or the capacity of the organization you moved into, and then you build some, you enter into some contracts with your line manager or your hiring manager or your hiring organization to deliver certain numbers. And meanwhile, the organization does not have what it takes to deliver that. And this usually happens to people who are moving from maybe big organizations to smaller organizations. And I've been involved in hiring and negotiating terms with new hires. And I find that sometimes people who come from big organizations will come and say, look, you guys are doing 200 million. No, I'm going to give you 500 million. Now, when they come, they just then realize that, they don't have the team members are not as knowledgeable as the place I'm coming from. The system, they don't even have the platform. There's the software we used to use. When we just ask for things, we get it done in the other organization. But right here, they don't even have the systems in place. They don't have those provisions. You need a driver, you just, ask the fleet department, and the driver just come in and you jet out. In this place, they don't even have cars, stop left fleet, they use Uber. And you have to go through a long process of trying to get approval for you to, and before you are frustrated as a salesperson, or you are frustrated as the head of department and everything. So you got to be careful about setting unrealistic expectations. Attempting to do too much, again, that's also in line with what we just talked about. Engaging the wrong type of learning. So sometimes you're learning the wrong things, all right, when you come into the organization. I have an example of that. Someone who is hired to carry out a particular task, but then becomes fascinated with a particular system and application or a process, and begins to focus a lot on learning about those things, all right? So for example, you are hired as a people manager, all right? And you come in, and instead of you to begin to understudy the people side of things. You begin to worry and focus a lot more on the process side of things. Right? And this also happens to people who are transiting from technical roles to even manager roles. They just carry on trying to be the individual experts, and becoming a technical expert. But the truth is that at that moment, you need to shift to begin to learn to be a people expert. Who are people? Why do they behave the way they behave? Build your emotional intelligence, build your influence around people and everything. And because now you are needing, you are going to be evaluated for what other people are doing. In other words, people get a job done and you are the one who is either rewarded or punished for that. In other words, people do get the job done and you are accountable for the results. People do the job, you are accountable for the results. So you must find a way to influence them and all of that. And so the type of learning that is required for that, or to excel in that, is completely different from the type where you were the one actually doing the job. All right. So engaging the wrong type of learning can become a major problem. All right. And then of course, neglecting peer relationships. Okay. So it's also possible that you assume a position and then you are not relating, well with your colleagues and everything. You probably get into some, competitive relationship with them. All that can become a source of trap and problem for people. Now, the other trap is people not understanding the situation of the firm that they come into. So we talked about understanding the nature of your transition, to avoiding the mistake. The mistakes of early of people, most managers in transition, those mistakes. And then now we're looking at understanding the organization itself. Okay, so sometimes, and this is where the STAR model comes in very handy. The STAR model says that organizations are in 5 different situations. So the 5 different situations are organizations that, or stages organizations can be, was captured in the STAR model. So it says that some organizations are at the startup level, and some are at the turnaround level, some are at an accelerated growth level, others are at the alignment level, and others are at the sustaining success level. Now, companies at the startup level are those who are assembling capabilities. We've heard about the startups around us. We are trying to attract the right people, the right finances, and the right technology, and everything is new and everything. And at that point, there's so much energy, there's excitement, and everybody just wants things to be done. And of course, there's also scarcity of resources. There's not enough financing. You're struggling the right people because probably you don't have all the money to pay them. So there is a situation and a circumstance around startups that you must be aware of. And when you go there to work, you must adapt your leadership style and your strategy to them. And of course, if you go to a turnarounds are companies that are, are probably in a bad state or in a bad shape and are in the process of trying to make a comeback. All right. Accelerated growth are organizations that are probably doing well with their product and service, and they are beginning to either grow their markets, move into new markets, and expanding very fast. That's another business situation. And then you have their realignment state where a previously successful organization is slowing down, probably going through just having some problems. It may not be slowing down, but having problems either with the environment, with the regulations, internally, whether it's internally or externally, but they need someone to come and help fix things up, and then you are brought into the situation. And of course, sustaining success is where you are hired to an organization that is doing very well, okay? And you are just brought in to maintain the rate of success. Now, the leadership style, the strategy for each of these organizations are different. All right. And then if you come from maybe a relatively successful organization and you are brought into a startup and you want to use the attitude of the sustaining, and the leadership style that you used in the sustaining business, you will find out that you will fail and you will derail in the startup. Right. And I have clients that I've worked with that have complained about some of their managers or leaders who are struggling with them. And by the time we assess the organization and where the person is coming from, we realize that the reason why the person is struggling is because he's still thinking like he's in probably the sustaining success organization or the realignment organization or the accelerated growth organization. And now he's in a turnaround or in a startup and he's just lost. He can't believe what kind of human beings are here. What kind of, why are things done this way? and he just loses out the first 90 days and probably gets to loggerhead with the owner of the business and everything, and he's sent back in, right? So when you are making a transition, you have to be careful, all right? And you have to assess the organization you are going to. Check it. Is it a startup? Is it a turnaround? Is it in an accelerated growth stage? Is it in a realignment? And is it in a sustaining success stage? There are ways you need to lead and you need to behave when you go to a startup. There are ways you lead and the way you need to behave when you go to a turnaround. There are ways you lead and the way you behave when you go to an accelerated growth, realignment, and a sustaining success as well. So this is also another major trap or issue, all right? And not adapting yourself to it can cause you problems. So what do you need to do and for you to overcome these traps? And that's where we came up with this whole the 90 days plan, right? The 30, 60, and 90 days plan, right? So typically our own framework for it is there are 6 things that we recommend, right? There are 5 here. See the 6th one later. Number one, assess, all right? How do you overcome transition traps? How do you overcome transition failures? Number one, assess, all right? Assess what? Assess yourself, all right? Assess yourself. Who are you? Your strengths, your weaknesses. Assess your reputation, where you're coming from. Because like we said, your transition begins even before you enter the organization. Have you heard or have you been in a situation, I'm sure some of you have been, when you hear there is a manager going to come to your organization, and then you all went to Facebook and to Google, and then you begin to call up in the organization. Hello, Fred. I hear one of your managers is coming to our company. How is he? How does he behave? Is he a good manager? Is he easy to work with? And then you begin to ask all those questions. So typically your transition starts even before you enter into the organization. So, and your fame, also be conscious of the fact that your fame precedes you. So you must prepare, assess yourself, and know what fame or what reputation or what will the people there hear about you, and how are you going to prepare to respond to those things before you get there, so that you don't begin to experience blockage right from when you come in. All right. Just to get to politics a little bit. Recently we read in the news that Americans are experiencing so much issues at the borders, so many immigrants coming in. And, when Biden was asked, he said, well, everybody says Biden is a nice guy, so everybody wants to come into America now. So you see, so his reputation has preceded him, and it has consequences. Now everybody's coming to the border, and now they're having issues at the borders. All right? So your reputation precedes you. All right. And there are certain behaviors, or there's a way people will behave towards you because of what they think you are. But you need to prepare how you are going to respond to these things and make sure you align your team. Right. So number one, assess yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses. Who are you really? If you join in our Life Compass program, we can take you through a lot of leadership profiling tools, that will help you have a perfect idea of who you are. The number one thing you can do for yourself is really have a PhD on who you are. All right, your strengths, your weaknesses in terms of, at all 360 degrees. So we have all kinds of tests that we can conduct for you. You know your energy type, you know your strength type, you know your interests, your preferences, you know your people management style, and you know all those things. So when you are going, you can actually articulate who you are and what people should expect from you. All right, so there are no shocks, there are no surprises. And so no matter what they heard, if you come and then you begin to show them who you really are, then you tell them who you are and you begin to show them that aspect of you, then they will tend to believe you, and then you build credibility. Okay. Then secondly, of course, like we said, you must assess the type of transition you are making. We talked about it. Okay. And then thirdly, you must assess the situation of the firm. Is it in a startup? All right. Is it in a turnaround and all of that? So you must arm yourself with that. Okay. Before you move. Next is accelerate. Okay, what we simply mean is accelerate learning. So when you come in, which areas must you learn? You must identify which areas you must accelerate learning in, and you must also assess who can help you with your learning. Okay, so the areas you must focus on are the technical learning, terms of products, the services, the process, the systems, the technology that is being used, and who and the people that you need to work with to get your job done, right? So all the learning that you require in order to get your job done, you must accelerate learning in those areas. Number two is you must accelerate learning in the cultural setting of the organization. Why does the organization behave the way they behave? How do people behave here? And why do they behave the way they behave? What's the background? All right, who are the major who are the major heroes of this culture? Okay, it's very, very important. Okay, because like they say, the culture is the immune system of the organization. If you touch it, it will kill you. That's what I tell people. But they say culture die hard. But if you mess with the culture will eject you. All right. So you need to be sure, you need to know, and you need to know how to work around it. Number three is the political system, the political climate in the organization. Who are those with the power? Who are the influencers? Where does the power lie? You need to know these things. You need to get yourself to a point where you are on the right side of the political. Now, politics is everywhere. You cannot avoid it for now. All right. This is some of the evils we have to live with. Like they say, we have people who live in countries, in places that are along earthquake fault lines and tornadoes and people have not left any part of the world because there are dangerous natural disasters there. So just see politics and all those things as part of the natural disasters we have in certain organizations. Yes, some organizations have taken steps. They created cultural operating systems, created certain leadership standards so as to douse those things, to a great extent. Yeah, very good. But how many organizations have that? All right. So if you have gone to an organization and when from your assessment, you've seen that they're high on culture, high on political, the place highly politically charged, then you must either choose to go or choose to back away. Else it will backfire if you are not able to align and if you're not able to manage it well. That people don't like politics, or let me not say they don't like it, but people don't like politics because they don't know how to manage politics. So where you have situations, I have a friend who I told once, I want you and I to work on a project in a particular firm. And he asked, is the place unionized? And I said, yes. And he's like, no, I can't work in a unionized environment. And I really appreciated her thought because she was clear about where she can work and the places she cannot work. And no matter how juicy the offer is, she will reject it because it can lead to a disaster. Okay, and then of course industry learning. What's the industry and everything, and what are the peculiarities of the industry? You need to accelerate those learnings quickly. You must identify people who will teach you this thing. Your boss, your subordinates. Do you need people outside the organizations? We'll talk about the network later. Your developmental network. People who will give you that information. You need it. Next is adapt. All right, adapt your strategy to the situation. If you come with the wrong strategy to the wrong context, this system will reject you. All right. I'm using strong words because I want you to be very afraid, so that you don't make those mistakes. All right. And of course, even though I see they're strong words, this have actually happened severally in the past. So it's not just strong words. Okay, they are realities. Okay. You need to adapt your leadership style to the culture and the context. All right. And then don't overestimate your change mandate, like we talked about there, coming with the answer and creating the expression that you think there's nothing good here. All those things, all those personality things that puts people off. Remember what we said earlier? The first thing about be careful not to be on the other side of the culture. If you trigger the cultural immune resistance system, you will be gone in less than 90 days. So don't come and tick anybody off. If you know you have those tendencies, work on them and control yourself. Else you will have issues. Align with your boss and your firms. Don't come into an organization and make your boss an enemy. That is the greatest leadership disaster. Your boss may be whatever. We have articles everywhere these days about working with a bad boss. Your boss may be a bad boss. In fact, and really and truly, there are cases of bad bosses everywhere. You can't run away from it. But like we said, like we said about politics and we said about culture, please take it as, people live with lions, people live with tigers. They tame them and live with them these days. And people live along volcanic fault lines. So just Either assess it and find out who your boss is and say, look, I'm not going there. Or when you know you have inherited them and you can't do without the job, then you have to learn to manage around it so that you do not, your career does not derail or you don't have issues. And if worst case, if you find out it was a surprise for you and you can't handle the shock, then quit as soon as possible. But again, you would have fulfilled the negative prophecy, which is people quit within the first 90 days to 1 year. And that's what we're trying to avoid by all this, okay? So align your boss with your boss, align with your firm's focus. Don't come and try to derail the organization, except if you have been given the job of doing that. And even if you are coming as the CEO and be given the job of, there's a way you go about the change management so that you don't have issues. Because if you do poor change management, then you have issues. If you look at issues people have in organizations, in countries, it's because the leaders come and try to execute change with a poor change management style or system. And then they have problems. So align with your boss, align with your firm's focus, align your team. In other words, establish a direction and communicate it clearly to your team and ensure they are on board. That, and the key part of it is aligning your team. Your team must be a high performance team. A high performance team is one that have the right people in the right roles and powerfully aligned and operate efficiently and collaboratively effectively. Now, naturally, for most middle managers, you don't hire your team, you inherit a team, right? So the earlier you quickly assess that team and check out who needs to stay and who needs to leave, and whether you can actually make them your team or not, the earlier you do that, the better. I had an opportunity to work somewhere. I got a role, and the chairman of the firm told me, you see, those people in that department, I want you to fire them and get you yourself a new team. Now I was coming from an organization where the leadership style is to build people, and I thought, okay, no, don't worry, just give me some time with them. I'll see what I can do. Guess what? The first major crisis I had, which was less than 1 month into working in that space, came from team members of the team sabotaging the department and conniving with various groups in the organization and coming over. I don't want to even go into it. It's terrible. So you have to assess the team and check, look, is this team my team, or can I make them my team? And if you find out you are experiencing some resistance, quickly deal with it. If you have to move certain people to other departments, motivate for them to be moved quickly. All right? Because you need your team to achieve your result. You can't do the job. And you can't get to a point where your team members become your supervisor. Then you are the one doing the job and you are reporting to them and you are giving them to review. Please, let me review this document. Say, okay. That means you have reversed the role. You are now the worker. And in that case, you have inherited a team that is not capable, a team that cannot do your job. That is not a team. So what you have is a collection of people that are being paid for doing nothing. So you must assess the team. Are they capable? Do they have the right commitment? Are they committed? I tell people about the 3 C's of talent. A talent is, the first C is what? Competent. The second C is what? Committed. The third C is what? Is contributing. So when you check the members of your team, and you find out that they fall short of any of these 3 C's, you have to do something about it. You have to do something about it, and you have to do it quickly, else you have problems. Okay, you have serious problems. All right, serious problem. I'm saying this because I've had experiences and I've seen people have terrible experiences. Okay, so don't just have a collection of people and be working towards being liked. Some people come to you and all I need to do is to be liked. No. You've been hired to do a job. And if you are not delivering results in your first 90 days and to 1 year, the organization will take note. And you can't come back to the organization, it's the team that I have. You must assess the team and give them a proper evaluation and say, look, I found out I have a team of 5. Number 1 and 2 are not competent. Number 3 is not committed. I can only work with these 2. Can I replace this one? Can you move them to other departments for me? Motivate for it. All right, especially if the demand on you is very tasking, because you got to get your job done through these people, right? So it's very important. Align your team. Number 5 here is alliance. Identify and build relationships with key stakeholders and influencers. Create your strategic, operational, and developmental network. In other words, have a network of people that help you with your strategy. that help you to get into the market, that help you get results at that level. Help get a network that help you with operational details, information and everything, and support that you need in order to get your systems and process to work for you. Get a network. Some of you belong now to the good to great manager group. Well done. Congratulations. You are welcome, because in this group, you will learn a lot about all the support you need. If you have questions, you can always ask the group, and we'll all support you with our experiences. Have a network. The thing is that most leaders are not deliberate about creating network. Please create a network inside the organization and outside the organization. It's extremely important that you create alliances. They'll be thoughtful and they'll be deliberate about it. Okay? That's what I just said. Right? And one of the ways also that you can also, one of the alliances you must also create is the one we also recommend here at Haynes and Atkinson. We have been involved in coaching individuals who have assumed new roles. We're giving them, of course, the leadership transition acceleration coaching. And so even though the organization, they are doing wonderful things in the organization, they have no idea that they have an extra brain outside that is providing the kind of support that they need. Now, sometimes for other people who are looking for mentors and coaches, you are looking for somebody and you are not getting the right persons, or they are not giving you time. Just pay a little token out of your salary, and it's just for a few period, and get the necessary coaching you need, get the mentorship you need, and begin to succeed. The ROI is worth it. But if you carry on trying to look for somebody and nobody's supporting me, nobody likes me, nobody wants to, and of course maybe they have reasons not to, maybe because of all the other factors we talked about, get support from outside quickly, right? It's a very key alliance that you must form. If you don't do that and you begin to have issues, then after a while you're not performing to expectations, and then you get probably stagnated in that role for a long time. You spend like 5-10 years on one role because nobody's going to move you forward. And then you find that you're not looking outside for other opportunities and everything. You don't need to allow it get that way. All right? Get the right coaches so that you move your performance to a peak. And when you even eventually decide to exit and you tell them you want to exit, they try to even make a counter offer to keep you. That's what leadership success is. That's what being a great leader is all about. Right? And honestly, this is, like I said, it's very cheap. We have the standard plan where for as little as 50 to 100,000 naira per person. Very, very affordable. All right. You're a manager. I tell people, who wants to be a millionaire? Become a manager. Managers are millionaires. I started making my first millions when I became a manager. So I don't know what you have a problem with. All right. But again, it depends on the type of firm you're working with anyway. So pay something. And of course, if your firm is not paying enough, invest that money and see what happens so that you can move to an organization that works. All right. So take it seriously. And of course, we have the individual coaching at the platinum level. Work with CEOs and senior executives from $5,000 to $15,000. So get yourself into the right alliances to support your work. And why this is important? We found out that when you give people transition acceleration support, it halves the time for them to begin to perform. So you can see what the various research that we carried out. All right. They said new managers achieve results 46.3% faster than if they don't get the support. Their managers achieve results 50.5% faster than if they did not get any support. All right. And then their HR partners, this is for a particular firm, and the other HR partners get 47.7% results faster than if they did not get any support. So wouldn't you rather get the support and begin to achieve faster than you ought to, right? And then the various areas in specific terms, the benefits that they got were understanding integration challenges and the focus that should be in the first 90 days. They get feedback from the team. They gain insight into stakeholder backgrounds and interests. They get feedback discussions around the first 90 days. They think through early decisions and how to best present themselves. They understand the dynamics of the new team. They understand how to productively engage with company culture, and they allow executives to make important decisions about the business earlier. These are the benefits that most of the people who have gone through a transition acceleration program have gotten. So why don't you do same? Why don't you do same? Why must you try to, cut corners and struggle, right? So, you need alliances, and honestly, getting a transition coaching is a very, very important alliance. Right? It's one that is necessary. And so finally, achieve. Achieve is the sixth thing you must do. Achieve early wins. Okay. So consider these principles of securing early wins. Number one, focus on a few promising opportunities. Okay. Don't do too much. Do a few things. Get wins that matter to your manager. All right. Do things that are relevant to your manager and that your manager wants, not what you like or what you think it should be. Don't do what pleases your manager. Your manager is the one that hires you, is the one that is paying you. All right. You may think your salary is coming from HR. No, your line manager is the one that has hired you, and he can fire you. So do what get wins for your manager, the wins that matter to them, not the ones that you think matters to you. All right. So therefore, you must check with him and engage and consult with him when you have your own plans, so that he will tell you which ones are important and he can help you prioritize, as it were. Okay. Then number 3, get wins the right way. Don't become unethical. All right. Don't try to do anything the wrong way. Okay. Take your star situation into account. Okay. Take the company situation into account. Very key. And then adjust for the culture. All right. Adjust for the culture. All right. Don't go against the culture. Like I said, you touch it, it's the immune system to reject you. All right. And that's the principle that is used for the COVID-19 virus, right? Right. The principle is that they culture a part of the virus. All right. And now they're injecting it inside us. So our body builds an immune system against that part. So anytime any virus enters your body, already there's immunity waiting to fight it. All right. So a culture is the immune system of an organization. If you go against it and the system identifies you as the enemy, they reject everything. They reject you and everything that looks like you from the system. So please adjust. You make adjustments and align to the culture. Now, finally, Benjamin Franklin said, without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. All right. As a line manager, learning and leading go hand in hand. Leaders are learners, okay? And learners are leaders. So be willing to change, be willing to grow, be willing to transform, all right? You have to make that necessary transition based on this understanding.